Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Inside the Pigskin. Glad to have you with us tonight. Great show lined up. We're going to be talking about a Monday night football game with the Jets and Aaron Rodgers, who, by the way, is his career spiraling south. We're talking about Joe Flacco replacing Anthony Richardson. And yes, Coach loves my shirt because the Miami Hurricanes whipped Florida State. So much to the happiness of my favorite coach, Bono. Okay, and I'll see them this weekend. And we're going to talk about the Cleveland Browns and Jameis Winston, a new start. We're going to talk about Joe Flacco, the new starter for the foreseeable future, and Pete Carroll, and along with the Hail Mary. With that said, hail to the crew. Candy Ebling's going to be with us for a couple segments, unless she wants to stay on the whole time. It's up to her. Want to stay on the whole time, Candy? I don't care.
We'll see. We'll see
All
how
right.
it goes.
All right, we'll have Candy on there. All right, Candy, welcome to the broadcast. Joshua,
Thanks.
you're right. Full house tonight. Jeremy B.
Good evening. It's great to be here.
Excellent to have you. And we got Coach Bono. Welcome back.
Good to be back.
And we got Bo Crouch.
How's it going, everybody?
Got a topic for everybody. Don't worry. Steve Ballesteri. Good stuff is back. My senior patriot. Good stuff. All right. Let's get this bad boy started in week number 1 on Monday Night Football. The 49ers and the Jets did big numbers, drawing 20.5 million views, second most watched matchup in ESPN's 19 years on Monday Night Football. On Sunday, the New England Patriots dealt Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets their fifth straight loss, 25-22. Rodgers completes 17 of 28, 233 yards, 2 touchdowns, was sacked once. Question to everybody is this: is Aaron Rodgers' career spiraling south and downward? Candy, no better place to start than you.
He's not a young spring chicken anymore. Let's face it. He's 40 years old. And yes, he is starting to on the decline. He is not still up and rising. He's not still the MVP caliber like he used to be. He doesn't have the same arm strength. He takes his body longer to heal. I mean, if any of you have gotten older, you all know if you get injured, the older you get, the longer it takes you to recover. I don't care what it is from. It takes you longer. And so the same thing for him, even though he's got this new medicine or whatever he's got, because you never know what he's doing or what kind of retreat he's gone into these days. But yes, I would say he's on the decline. And as a Packer fan, I'm glad we had him when we did.
You know, hello, Joshua Dorr. He's a one-man chat band in there today outside of West Coast Wind. Welcome to the show, Joshua. As far as the Dolphins winning the Super Bowl. You know, here's the thing, Joshua. If the Dolphins are winning the Super Bowl, then I know you're voting for Amendment 3 that they're going to legalize marijuana in Florida, because I don't see that happening. But, you know, you're welcome to think that way, Joshua, but you have a panel that definitely agrees with you. So
they got some work. They got some work to do.
That's a lot of it. All right, Jeremy, you know the question. Give me your answer.
Well, you know, the writing was on the wall when Robert Salah got fired because he wouldn't hug Aaron Rodgers, wouldn't let him hug him. And so now you got Karen Rodgers leading the way, trading for old players that used to be with them in the Packers. You've got a guy that has a problem with management. The only problem is he is the management. So he's got too much in his head, and he's going around in circles. His one leg that was healed up because of some natural remedy, because he refused to have surgery, now is half the size of the other leg, and he's struggling to throw the ball because of it, which is affecting his mechanics. He's washed.
Fair enough. Tell me how you really feel, Jeremy. Really? Seriously? There you go. All right, turn over to the coach.
I'm going to take the counterpoint on this one. I think that the Jets could turn it around still. And I think that Rodgers, even though admittedly he's not what he used to be, I think he still has enough, tools in his toolbox that he can win some games. I think the issue with the Jets is more, the climate inside the building, call it the culture, whatever whatever it might be. When you pull a move like Woody Johnson did, as far as firing a coach that early in the season, I mean, you have to think that there was more going on that they're not letting us know about. Now the issue is there wasn't like a clear-cut front runner. This is going to be the guy. This person can lead our team. This could potentially even be the next head coach of the Jets, which, it could still work out that way. But, you look at them, all right, they're playing good defense, right? That's, they're fourth in the league in total defense. So when you can play good defense, all you have to do is really play complementary football. And for the Jets, that's going to start with stopping, they got to stop beating themselves. How are they doing that right now? Well, they're 21st in turnover margin, so they're giving the ball away a lot, and then they're 29th in penalties. So if they can just do those two things, it's okay to punt. Don't just stop giving the ball to the other team and stop, taking plays off the board or off the stat sheet or hurting yourself by committing dumb penalties. I think that's the issue with them right now.
What do you think, Bo?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's actually exactly the way I was going to go about it. It's a very undisciplined team. They make a lot of mental errors, and even when you have Rodgers making throws, they come back. And so there's so much chaos around that organization that even though the roster is nice and the defense is top 5, they can't get out of their own way. And until they can do that, I mean, obviously we've seen that Saleh wasn't the issue, right? They've gone 0-2 since then. So this is a organizational issue, but let's be honest, that's been the Jets for 20 years. So it's not like anything's new there.
All right. Well, Steve, I don't think you're disappointed with what happened at all on Sunday, are you?
No, as a New England fan, we hate the Jets. I mean, that's like, the ultimate Boston, New York hate thing. It's the Jets. So no one was shedding any tears in New England for the Jets. I will say this. I don't think Rodgers is healthy. He's had ankle and hamstring issues. Even the Patriots nose tackle, he was saying after the game, Devon Godchaux, that Rodgers wasn't moving well. He was like, I was able to run him down. And he said that would have never happened in the past. So whether it's just the nagging injuries or age catching up with him, he's not quite the same guy. Now, as we saw in week 3 against the same Patriots, when everything's going right for him, he can still light it up. And that was his best game of the season, which was against the Patriots in week 3. But the problem with the Jets, and I agree with Coach, it's a culture thing. They have a collection of talent, but not a football team. You see it all the time, when you watch the Jets. They have all these great players, especially on their offense. I mean, their offense is loaded. But, not everyone's pulling in the same direction with them. And you can see it time after time. And sometimes the play calling, and on Sunday was the same thing. I thought some of the play calls were, kind of head scratchers when it came to them. So, that's the big thing with them. I do think Rodgers' talent is diminishing, and he's 40 years old. And I know the Jets saw what happened with Tom Brady in Tampa Bay, and they decided they could do it too. But I think the big thing holding that back was Tom Brady eats, sleeps, dreams football. And Rodgers isn't as dedicated. He took the spring off. He went to a retreat in Egypt in a cave. He skipped mandatory minicamp. And, those were things that Brady was always the first guy in there. And I think that makes a big difference. And you're seeing it on the field because they have the talent to be lighting it up every single week, and they're not doing it.
Well, the reality is, number one, I hate bringing this stat up because it drives me nuts. Rodgers is 2-6, and Zach Wilson was 4-4. Number two. That's just a fact that's out there, whether we like it or not. I'm not going anywhere with it.
Right.
Rodgers is regressing, and the offensive line hasn't gotten any better, and the defense is getting worse. And Robert Saleh was the one that kept that defense together, and the offense isn't doing a whole lot better. Seeing Rodgers 233 yards isn't Aaron like. So regardless of what we want to say about the whole thing, we all know the culture is a problem. And there's probably only one person on the planet that even wants that job, Rex Ryan. He's the only one that wants it. Otherwise, stay away.
And even still, their defense, with Drake May getting hurt in the first half, I was watching the game, and the Patriots are down in the fourth quarter, and with that Jets defense, with Jacoby Brissett in there, and you got wide receivers dropping the ball all over the place for New England. They had 6 drops, and it was awful. But yet I thought there was no way they were going to be able to score, and they scored twice in the fourth quarter on that Jets defense, which I didn't think would have been possible. So they have their own letdowns there as well.
That defense has regressed a little bit with Saleh out of the room. And some of that is because they elevated their DC as the head coach. So his focus is split. And unfortunately, you are seeing that on that side of the ball. It's still a very good defense, but it's not it's not what it's been the last couple of years.
Yeah, and the irony here, I'll get to you in a second, Jeremy, is this, okay? Robert Saleh is in Green Bay helping out Matt LaFleur. Seriously? I guess he only needed 2 weeks off, right, before he had to get the itch to go back to play a role in the Green Bay Packers? Holy Toledo. All right, Jeremy, go ahead.
Number one, I said the trade for Devontae Adams wasn't going to work because it didn't fix the O-line.
No, true.
Number two, I mentioned all of this about Zach Wilson a week ago as well.
All right.
That it took him 8 games his rookie year to throw 7 interceptions, and 12 games the last time he was a starter to throw 7 interceptions. And now here it is. We're sitting at 9. 9 interceptions on the season for Aaron Rodgers, and a worse record than Zach Wilson has had.
Right.
Zach Wilson wasn't the issue. The O-line was the issue. The lack of weapons was the issue. And the lack of coaching. And I also said when Robert Saleh was fired, I said, I think he's going to end up on one of 3 NFC North teams. And I started with the Packers. I went to Minnesota. And then I went to the Lions. I literally said that night when he was fired.
Okay, so I want the crew to go out there and give Jeremy a round of applause. Okay.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
No, I know what I'm saying. Wait a minute. Hold on. Come on. You got the Mountain Dew. Everybody give Jeremy a round of applause because it's his I told you so. George Mubarak just ensured Candy was going to be on the whole show because now I'm going to hit a grand slam with this show. And Jeremy's right now is looking at me like, holy Toledo, boss, what are you doing to me? I'm having fun with you.
Don't put me on the spot. I'm just saying, I over the past 4 weeks, I've literally called all of this. And he's there, and he's not even being a defensive coach. He's there to help the offensive line and Jordan Love understand what defenses are doing against him. And that's a brilliant move, really, because where has Jordan Love struggled this year? Reading a defense. He's thrown 9 picks just like Aaron Rodgers.
We know it's a brilliant move. The only thing I didn't see with that comment was you knocking your hat off this time instead of getting me to knock off of mine. Seriously? Really? Oh, all right, Candy, you're staying on the whole show.
I got them all out of you.
Yeah, well, whatever. All right. Well, you got those 2 out of me. All right, guess what, Candy? You're staying on the whole show because George Boris says the screen is loaded. Now Scott will hit a grand slam with this show. Sometimes fate is meant to be in certain ways. Yes. All right. We're going to go to Joe Flacco, game starter for the Colts, quarterback, and the 4th overall pick. Anthony Richard checked out late against Houston, thus forcing the benching. He went 10 for 32, 175 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 31.25 completion rate and is the lowest Richardson has posted in an NFL game, Shane Steichen says, you know what? Rule number one, you better play the whole game, even if you're tired. And number two, I had Joe Flacco just around the corner. So with that said, I'll go around just and we'll go in backwards order. Steve, what do you think of the move?
Well, it's not a good move for Richardson. You know, when you anoint this guy as your new franchise quarterback, you hate to see him benched. I mean, it's one thing if he's hurt, but if he's not producing, I mean, that's not good. Let's put it that way. But in regards to Joe Flacco, I mean, I think he gets better with age. You know, everywhere he goes, he lights it up. So, I'm looking for good things from the Colts because I think Joe at this stage of his career, he's playing with house money. And I mean, he's seen it all, so he has a ton of experience, and he's played in different systems, and he's a smart, tough veteran quarterback. I expect he's going to do very well there, and good for him. I love seeing it.
Okay, Bo.
Yeah, I mean, tapping yourself out of a game, even if it's for a play, isn't a great thing to see out of your leader. And then when you're asked about it, at least lie about it. At least be like, oh, I had some discomfort. I had to work it out for a play or whatever. Don't come out and be like, yeah, I was tired. Right? That's a really tough way to keep your team engaged with you. And yeah, absolutely. You can get benched, but it's not just there. The league itself has a little bit of a quarterback development issue currently. And a lot of that, and Richardson is just the latest one to get nailed by it. Because if we go through the list here, we got Richardson, is 22, just got benched, right? Bryce Young, 23, benched. Trey Lance, 24. Now his was injury prone, but still. Justin Fields, 25. Will Levis, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, Kenny Pickett. These are all guys that were drafted high.
Right.
These are guys that needed development, and instead they were shoved out there and didn't immediately perform. And these teams don't seem to have a plan for that anymore.
Right.
And, there's a few teams out there that still have pretty good developmental programs as far as just their team in general. But, a lot of new quarterbacks are suffering from franchises that just don't want to spend the time, or someone that needs a year or two.
No patience.
Yeah.
No patience. All right, Coach. You know a lot more
Well,
about this.
I think that phrase says everything. No patience. That's what's taking place in this league. And Bo did a great job of outlining all the guys. And we've said it on here before. Taking a quarterback with the first pick, it's a risk. I mean,
Right.
I don't know if I was a GM and had a choice. I mean, I'll take somebody that can rush the passer. I'll take if you're playing the rookie, or if you're playing him that early, which is typically what happens. Again, we've talked about this. You're drafting early in the draft for a reason, because you're not very good. There's not many pieces around them, whatever it is. They don't have time to get to develop, and it's a win now. What have you done for me lately, league? Everybody's feeling that pressure from the GM to the head coach to everybody on down. And so, if a team feels like their best opportunity to win is to play a rookie quarterback, they know it's a gamble. I will give them credit for one thing. I'll give them credit for having a guy like Flacco in the wings that they can go to. So, but look, I'm not surprised the kid's not struggling, because I watched him at Florida, and he was a hit or miss player. There are times where he looks sensational and he's definitely has the wow factor. And then there's times where, you're left scratching your head and saying, how did he miss that throw? Or how did he not see that? So, hopefully it'll be a wake up call for him and he can get on the right track, because again, like Bo said, pulling yourself from a game is never a good look. I can't remember ever seeing that happen before with the quarterback position. I'm not saying it hasn't, but I don't remember that. I don't ever remember anybody tapping out.
Let alone a young player to begin with. All right, I'll turn it over to Jeremy. That's a bad omen if you're young, let alone old, getting yourself all they can. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Anthony Richardson, out of all the quarterbacks taken last year, had the least amount of game experience because he was a first-year starter in his third year of college. He only played those 11 games. He came in after the first game because the starter at the beginning of the season was injured. So therefore, you took a million risks because he had a great year at a college that wasn't supposed to be that good that year, if you remember right. And
Was it the year, or was it he had an amazing pro day?
that
Like
too. I mean, it's a combination. He had good to decent stats all year long and against some good competition in the SEC. But at the same time, I'm not saying the team had great results.
You know, that takes me back what you're saying, Jeremy, to, you know, Parcells used to say this all the time, not about just the quarterback position, but he'd always say, beware of the 1 year wonder, you know.
Yep. And
but especially a quarterback, I mean, I think it's even more holds more weight there.
Yep. So he comes out, he runs the fastest 40 time of the quarterback that year. He has an amazing combine. He has an amazing pro day and all the oohs and ahs while in the pajama Olympics. It is both of those events. But at the same time, he started to look like he was that guy for those first 5 games until his injury. If you remember right, they were on a hot streak. And all of a sudden he gets hurt. He comes back, he never looks the same. But at the same time, he didn't say he was tired. He literally said he couldn't catch his breath. I'm waiting to see if there's some type of medical condition that he has that wasn't found until now, because not being able to catch your breath, that does make you tired.
That's an interesting point. There really is. But I'll turn it over to Candy.
He completed 10 of 32 pass attempts for 175 yards. The 31.25% completion rate is the lowest Richardson has posted in any NFL game. Okay, so we all know I'm a Packers fan. We all know, what did Aaron Rodgers do? He sat. What did Jordan Love do? They sat. As a rookie, you need to sit. You need to learn the offense. You might not have patience, but you need to learn, because moving from college to pro is a completely different game. Different elements. They're going to throw you different defenses at you. You need time to develop that, to be able to read that. Being thrown in too early in this win now, and I get it, it's a win now league. Let's face it, even head coaches are getting let go after one season or whatnot because it's a win now. I want to produce on the field because I need that winning stat. But again, you need to develop, and especially someone at that level. Now, here's what the other thing I'm going to say. If you're going to draft a rookie quarterback and put him in, you have to give him all the good weapons. You have to give him a good offensive line, because he needs time to be able to read the defense and stuff like that. So your O-line has to be really stellar. You have to start working early on with your receivers, and not just on the field. You have to gel with them and have, it's got to be not a head case either. Like some of these receivers, like I've got it. One of the things Jordan Love, yes, he's got all kinds of picks this year. I'll be the first to admit that. But he's also throwing to a lot of different rookies, and he's starting to gel with some of them. There's not one rookie on there that necessarily is saying, I need the ball, I need the ball, I need the ball, I need the ball. Romeo Doubs did in the beginning, but now he's backtracked some.
But at the same time, aren't they all second, third year guys now? Because there isn't any rookies in the wide receiver room anymore.
Correct. But Anthony Richards isn't a rookie either. So he's in his second year, just like they are. And what I'm saying is that one of the things that I think we've heard that Brady used to do is that he used to get together with the guys, and he used to, gel with them and whether they go out, get to know each other, whatever it is. But let's face it, if you're working anywhere, if you know the people you're working with and have a better relationship, you're more apt to do better as a team. And I would say the same thing about a football team. If you have one or two people that are, I need the ball, or, or head cases, or however you might want to put it, if they're not gelling as a team together cohesively on and off the field, they're not going to have the success. I mean, let's look at the Lions right now. All the team buys into Dan Campbell. Everybody loves him, and the team seems to be gelling as a whole. And look at the success that they're having now. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about them later, but I'm just saying you have to look at that. Same with all these rookies and what you're throwing them into, the situations you're throwing them into as well.
All right, Candy, I'm going to say this. Number one, Jordan Love is not going to take himself out because he's tired. That's number one. Number two, if I were to make an assertion on this, I'm sure most of you guys would agree, and get Candy will, a lot of your best quarterbacks don't have to be Super Bowl champions in the first round. They come in rounds 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. If you don't believe me, ask Joe Montana and Tom Brady, and I'll bet there's a bunch of other ones. So, the reality is Anthony Richardson played duck, duck, goose with the wrong situation, and you don't go ahead and leave the game prematurely, especially when your team could use you. And let's face the reality, Joe Flacco, no longer with the Cleveland Browns. I'll bet they wish they had him. But then again, I'm going to lead to the Cleveland Browns in a moment. The whole idea is this, okay? Jordan Love is not leaving, because he's tired, period. I don't care what anybody says. We can talk about these quarterbacks being developed, blah, 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 blah. I've always been a firm believer that you need to sit him for at least 1 or 2 years. Patrick Mahomes didn't start off the bat. How did that work out? Well, you already addressed it yourself with Rodgers waiting a little while under Favre. I mean, the list goes on and on. And I remember Steve and I and Coach Bono, perhaps Jeremy, and I don't know about you, Bo, but I think we can all remember that it wasn't a given, okay, to go out there and start at the beginning. You had to pay your dues in order to get on the field permanently. All right, interesting question in the chat room. Anybody can answer it, or all of you can. J.I. says, Tom Landry or Bill Belichick, who's a better coach?
I like that I'm just getting slandered in this comment section over here.
I know, it's hilarious.
Maria? I don't know. I only got to that one,
because,
so I'm not looking at it.
It's because if I respond on here, it doesn't actually populate to your YouTube. And
okay.
No, so I forgot about it. So I'll just address a couple of these real quick. Hating Joe Montana is hilarious. Yes, I'm going to go to some Kraken games this year. And had I known that any of you were in town, I'm always down to meet up. So
there you go. All right. Jay, well, don't get me started with Dan Marino. He reminds me of Herman Edwards. I could go off in a heartbeat with him.
And to answer Joshua Dorr, Inside the Pigskin doesn't like the comments. We like comments that are pertinent to the show and the topics we're talking about.
There you go. And by the way, Josh, to back up what Jeremy says, on Thursday night, Fire Up Florida, trick or treat or not, it will be on, and we will go out there and address. That's a long story, Jay. I won't mention it tonight. But if you want to reach out to me another time, I'll give you all my reasons why I can't stand Dan Marino. Although I know he's a heck of a quarterback, but I won't have time to address tonight because we are loaded. All right, I'll get to one more topic real quick. Candy will go to a station break. Cleveland Brown turned a negative into a positive, topping the Baltimore Ravens at home 29-24, ending a 5-game losing streak. Jameis Winston, how about that? 30 years of age, 27-41, 334 yards, 3 touchdowns in his first start since September 25th, 2022 for New Orleans. So Jameson, we trust. Maybe this is the opportunity that even with Deshaun Watson out, this is an opportunity for Jameis Winston to cement himself as a starter. And if he continues to have a good body of work, he may be the guy that saves Kevin Stefanski's job. With that said, I'm going to start off with Steve Ballesteri.
Well, I thought Jameis, he played really well on Sunday. I don't know whether that will continue. We've seen this from the Ravens before. One week they look like nobody can stop them, and then all of a sudden they have one of these games where they just stink it up. And I'm kind of on the fence about James. I mean, we've seen him in the past. He's had really, good football games. I think he's a good football player. I don't know whether he's going to be the answer for them. I'm chalking this one up right now as just one of those weird Ravens games where they have these every year, and where they play like crap. And I thought they did that on Sunday.
Well, there's no love lost between the Baltimore Ravens and Cleveland Browns. That's all
No, there is not.
I'm not going to say anymore, at least for the moment. But what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, two things were true in this game. Winston was an obvious upgrade from Deshaun, which everybody kind of thought that was going to be the case, right? Watson has played just terrible football overall. So everything looked like it was going to be an upgrade, right? Like he made Flacco look like a champ last year. So, I mean, that was part of it. The other part of it is every time the Ravens decide they don't want to use Derrick Henry in the game plan for whatever reason, they lose. So the first two games of the season, less than 20 carries in both games. In fact, it was roughly 30 carries between the two games. He had 11 carries this weekend. You're not going to win that way. You're asking Lamar to do too much. Their team isn't set up for that. So if they need to be able to come from behind, they have the talent to do it. If they are just going to be slinging the rock and become one-dimensional, that's not the team. That's not the design. So every time they decide, hey, we're just not going to use this incredibly fast mountain of a human for some reason, they catch an L, and deservedly so.
Fair enough. Okay, Coach.
Well, I mean, if you were a Browns fan, you had to be energized this week, right? I mean, to win a rivalry game, and then, Jameis comes in. I think, he played a great game. He won the press conference too. If you watch that afterwards, I mean, listen to it. I mean, it was like classic. They're probably going to use that interview in the rookie symposium on how to handle a win, and make sure you mention every single teammate and everybody and the fans and everything else. So look, he was the right guy at the right time, and it's his team. Whether he's the guy for the future doesn't matter. He's the guy for right now. And I'm sure he has everybody in that building, and certainly everybody in that town, believing in their football team a little bit. So, stranger things have happened. I don't think they're going to make a Super Bowl ring or run, but, I do think they could, win some games down the stretch, keep it interesting. And like you said, maybe save Kevin Stefanski his job.
Okay. Jeremy.
Well, there's two things I noticed. The offense looked better, and Kevin Stefanski wasn't calling the play. Number two, Jameis Winston looks better because if you remember after that abysmal last year he had with Tampa Bay, I believe that was 2020, the 30-30 year, he finally had LASIK surgery to remove 2 cataracts in his left eye and another one in his right eye, which was affecting his vision. And everybody said he couldn't read a defense. It's probably true. He probably didn't see the defenders, is why he threw most of those picks at the time. But at the same time, by doing some research, LASIK, while it takes 6 to 8 weeks to be able to go outside, to be able to see sunlight, the internal part of the eye, because it's a constantly wet mucous membrane, takes longer to heal than the exterior part of it does. It actually takes anywhere up to 2 to 3 years to get your full vision restored after LASIK surgery. Are we actually seeing the fact that he can see now that it's 3 years later? That might have something to do with it, and why he wasn't throwing it to the other color jersey.
I don't know, Jeremy, that last year at Tampa Bay, 33, was it 33 and 30? He was throwing it 30 times, sometimes to the right jersey. The problem was he was throwing it 30 sometimes to the wrong jersey. But I like your take anyway, because I've had cataract surgery before. And let me tell you, it's no picnic, that's for sure. All right, Candy, what's your take on it?
Well, the other thing, let's not forget that Winston decides to force passes at times. And there was late in the game, Ravens safety Kyle Hamilton couldn't hold on to what would have been the game-sealing interception in the final minutes as well. So did he get lucky that they won the game or not? Either way, both teams have a lot of penalties and are playing sloppy. They both need to clean that up because if they don't, they're not going to win either. Good for Winston that he's getting a chance again. Let's see how he makes of that chance and what he does with it.
Well, the reality is Cleveland, was looking for anything positive to happen, let alone the fact that it happened to happen against the Ravens. So, yeah, I mean, I think right now, honestly, Winston's on house money in Cleveland. What was the option? Everybody else came down hard on Deshaun Watson. Now you got a guy here who's right now playing for a contract and playing survival just to stay in the league. That's what he's playing for. He's playing for his career in Cleveland, in Cleveland. So the reality is I'm pulling for the guy. And, yeah, he has a gunslinger mentality. But you know what? Maybe that town will appreciate him a little bit, but not as much as I'm going to appreciate Candy Ebling for giving us a station break. Go ahead, Candy.
Well, someone on this panel, I wonder who it is, wrote a book, and it was published last November. It is the host. Oh, that's right. Scott, the Motor City Madmouth, wrote Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. He wrote it. It's available Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Apple and Google Books. There's a link on our website. There's also a link on our website to our merchandise store where you can get all kinds of cool South Florida Tribune merchandise. You can also find the links on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. If you see the red subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner, that means you have not subscribed to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. Please do so. Monday nights, we talk baseball. Tuesday nights, we talk football. Wednesday and Thursday nights, you never know what we're going to be talking about. Except also on Thursday nights on Fire Up Florida, Scott and guests talk hockey. Scott, back to you.
All right. Thanks, Candy. All right. Before we go on to another topic, Jay mentioned in there, if anybody wants to answer it, that's fine. Tom Landry, Bill Belichick, who's the better coach?
Tom Landry won 3, correct, as a coach, and Bill Belichick won 6 with Brady.
Tom Landry, was it 3 or 2?
It was 3 with Rodgers Starbuck during those years, right?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it was 2.
Was it 2? Okay. I knew it was less. That's all I'm getting at.
Yeah, no.
If you go by that measure, Belichick looked like he was the better head coach.
Anybody else want to add to it real quick? All agree?
I'm biased. I covered Bill, so I'm a Belichick. I guess you call me a Belichick honk. So, right. But I thought Tom Landry was outstanding. I mean, you got to remember the flex defense was that was like cutting edge stuff, and the stuff he did, first putting scouting, him and Gil Brandt, computerizing it and doing what they did,
Okay. Fair enough.
When it comes to the history of the game, I think Landry's right up there with anybody.
That's okay. I like that. All right, let's move on to the next topic. Detroit Lions 6-1, first time since 1956. Jake Bates 11 for 11 field goals, as Jeremy mentioned before, to start his career, longest streak franchise history. Obviously passes Riley Patterson, Khalif Raymond 5. How do you like this, coach? This one's for you, pal. 5 punt returns, 190 yards, got a touchdown. Got to have those special teams. Lions defeat the Titans 52-14 on Sunday. All right, Candy, we'll start off with you. Well, so what stat of all of these do you like the best out of what transpired on Sunday? You were watching it with me.
Wait, can you repeat those stats again? I'm sorry.
Sure. You got Jake Bates starts 11 for 11 to start his career. Khalif Raymond, 5 punt returns, 190 yards and a touchdown. And then Jake Bates, I think I mentioned, starts 11 for 11. You saw what the Lions did. Jared Goff even threw 3 touchdowns. So what impressed you the most about the Lions dismantling of the Titans?
All of the above. I mean, let's face it, right now, Jake Bates is hot. Like, there aren't many kickers in the league that are kicking like he is. Uh, how many teams have been out there looking for a kicker that's going to be good and consistent? And Jake's been everything but. He's been consistent every week. I mean, 11 for 11 is great. We saw him back when he was playing in the previous league, and he was good. And he didn't have to go far. He stayed in Michigan right there, and they swooped him up. But then again, Jared Goff is hitting his lights out too. He's been playing really well these last couple of weeks as well.
Yeah, David Montgomery, by the way, had a 70-yard touchdown run. But the reality is, the Lions first 6-1 first time since 1956. We're seeing a lot of first-time stats for a franchise that used to be getting them for all the wrong reasons. So I'll transition over to Jeremy, who's wearing that Motor City Kitties shirt.
Yeah, and on top of that, when you mentioned Jared Goff, I'd be remiss if I wouldn't say this 5-game streak of better than a 73% for completion percentage, 0 picks, and now, what is it, 9 touchdowns, I think it was in that stretch,
Right.
is the most in any 5-game stretch by any QB in NFL history without that. And on top of that, in that streak, we've had 25 touchdowns and only 19 incompletions.
Right.
That's never been done.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I want you to address the 3 things I mentioned.
The thing about Khalif Raymond that is crazy, they stopped punting. They decided, screw it, we're not punting to him anymore after he almost had a second one go for a touchdown. Remember, if he didn't slow down and try to cut it inside around the blocker, he had 2 blockers in front of him that he could have just skated right by down the sideline and got another touchdown. And he missed the NFL record for punt return yards by 16 yards in this game. The record is 206. That's some amazing stuff right there. And then you throw in the fact that Khalil Dorsey had another 3 returns for 72 yards.
Right.
We flipped the field on multiple occasions to make it to where Goff only had to throw for 85 yards to get 3 touchdowns. And then we saw a play that hasn't happened since 1952, and that's where a running back does the sweep play, stops the throw, and completes it to a non-quarterback or not another running back. He completed it to Sam Laporta, the tight end, on National Tight Ends Day.
Thanks for the kind word, Jay. Says that I do an awesome job redirecting to the point he was looking for, and have to sell him. Well, when you have a guy like Jeremy on there who, is an encyclopedia for the Detroit Lions, I have to make sure that we take his stats and combine them with the ones I threw in there. And what do you have? You have a lot of information, but there's a special teams angle to this one, and I got a special teams coach here, Coach Bono. Are you proud of Khalif Raymond and Jake Bates?
Absolutely. I mean, that was a dominant performance. I mean, look, Tennessee's struggles on special teams have been documented this year, but you have to go out and do it. And the Lions did. They took care of business. I think the fact that they came out strong and really kept their foot on the gas says a lot about the team. We just got finished talking about the Ravens and what happens, and you really, great teams don't overlook anybody. Their focus is more internal in terms of wanting to get better week in and week out. That's what I see the Lions doing. I'm glad Jeremy said what he did about Goff. I mean, he's playing the best football of his career right now, and they're just, the challenge is to keeping that momentum, just maintaining it, because there's still a lot of football to be played. They're in arguably the best division in football. I think, Green Bay, Minnesota, I mean, they're all good teams. So, and that will bode them well, that will bode them well come playoff time. But man, it's just, it's impressive to see what they're doing. And I'm anxious to watch and see how this all plays out at the end of the year.
So, Coach, quick question for you, then I'll turn over to Bo and Steve to wrap up the topic. What's the first thing that enters your mind when the team goes 6-1 for the first time since 1956?
Man, I mean, look, everything in the NFL changes. I mean, look, we don't necessarily consider the Saints as losers right now anymore, but prior to Sean Payton coming there in 2006, they were the Aints. They were coming off Katrina, but they had never had success, right? And I remember Sean sitting there and saying that to us, and he goes, Parcells. The second time I'm quoting Parcells on the same show. Parcells told him, he said, "You take that job, you need to figure out really quickly what it is and why no one else has won there. Otherwise, they're just going to be held in another press conference 3 years from now announcing another new head coach." So I think one of the things that Sean did, which was above everything, that even transcended his ability to coach, and kind of frankly like getting lucky with Drew Brees, was that he established a culture there. He brought in all his own people. There were a lot of new faces on that roster, and the standard never wavered, but neither did the expectations, or there were no guardrails. I mean, it was like, this is the way you're going to do it. Sean wasn't afraid to fine people. I mean, he fined Drew Brees for missing a meal. So that discipline and that culture, it carries over. And then when you have the right players and the right, the talent, that's what we're seeing happen right now in Detroit.
Okay. All right, Paul, why don't you chime in on this one? You know what I mentioned, 56. You got Jake Bates. You have Khalif Raymond, or whatever else comes to your mind.
Yeah, no, I mean, what they're doing is impressive. Obviously, the way they've built this culture is fantastic. Having this start, the first time since 56, I mean, it's crazy to think that this is going to be probably the first time they've had double-digit wins in back-to-back seasons since they became a team. And that was 34? They officially became the Lions, right? So it's been a minute. But yeah, I mean, picking up the kicker from the XFL, and I feel like all of us talking about it's probably going to jinx him, but there's just so much going right with this Lions team. It's exciting to watch.
Okay, Steve, you have the final word on it.
Well, first of all, I'd just like to say, we mentioned earlier in the show about teams today have no patience. And if you think back to Campbell's first season, they started off 0-10-1, and that would get a guy fired, on probably 85 to 90% of the teams, but they stuck with it. And now they've created a tremendous football team, from top to bottom. And for me, going back, I kind of got off track there a little bit, but the special teams thing is just, I love that, because that's such a big part of the game. You can have great offense, great defense, but if your special teams are lacking, it's going to put your team in a bad spot all the time. And the fact that this guy had almost, an NFL record, you got to love that. So yeah. It shows they've built a team from top to bottom, and they're going to be a force to be, reckoned with.
Yeah, that was the intrigue. That was the intrigue about why I wanted to talk about this. It wasn't for the obvious offensive reasons. I like to talk about special teams because you wonder, Coach, how many games are lost a year because of special teams? What is it, 1, 2, 3 games are lost a year? And that's a difference between getting in the tournament versus not. And the Lions, their special teams have always been good. If you think back to Jason Hanson and all the punters, the problem is everything else has been bad. Now, for the first time in a while, they got all 3 units working well. But, all the Lions, if you start there to look at Eddie Murray, Jason Hanson, we got kickers galore. If you want to settle for 3 points, not a problem. We need 7 usually. And I'm not a very good math major, but I do know one thing, okay? God love my father-in-law, Fred Ebling. 7 is greater than 3. And if that takes a rocket scientist to figure out, I'm in deep trouble. All right, well, I'm in deep trouble here about what I'm going to tell you because we're going to go to Bo's neck of the woods. Okay, could you foresee Seahawks head coach Pete Carroll on an NFL or perhaps college sideline? Pete was 166, 121 in the NFL with 2 Super Bowl appearances, and he won and one victory. I'm going to start with Mr. Seattle here on this one. What about Pete Carroll, Bo? You think he's ready to come back or at some point or another?
I mean, I think he's always wanting to come back, but he did sign a deal with USC to be a teacher there, and they currently have a coach. Now, if they are terrible, is there some pressure from within that school to put him back out on the field? I would think there would be, but as it sits right now, it looks like he's going to go down there and teach.
Fair enough. Okay, Steve.
Yeah, I think Pete's one of those guys that lives and breathes football, but maybe at his age, he's had enough of the long grind, and Coach Bono can speak to that better than any of us. But Coach has put in a crazy amount of hours in the building, and maybe at his age, maybe that doesn't burn as brightly anymore.
Okay, well, now that you've mentioned Coach Bono, we're going to segue over to Coach Bono.
Look, anything's possible. I think I don't think it's likely. The trend right now, in the NFL appears to be going younger in terms of head coaches, and then I just think that, I think Belichick will get one. I think Vrabel probably certainly deserves another opportunity. Pete's right there. I mean, he's accomplished a tremendous amount. I don't see him, could be wrong. I don't see him going the NCAA route because college football is not now what it was when he left. I don't see him wanting to deal with the NIL and all that stuff. But look, maybe he'd be fine with it. Who knows? But I think it's not a matter of him wanting to. I think he's been on record of saying that he still has a desire to coach. It's whether or not someone else gives him that opportunity. And that said, you only need to convince one person. You just need one person to say yes. So,
okay, Jeremy.
Oh, Pete going into teaching, it's kind of strange to hear, really, because he's been such a staple of the Seahawks organization for so long, and I think he was an advisor to the current coaching staff this year as well.
So,
is what I heard, or in an advisory role of some sort.
So they did that in a more or less an effort of, you're not going to coach for us, but you're also not going to coach against us. We're still paying you. We have to, because coaches' contracts are guaranteed. So it was kind of a way of keeping him in the building. McDonald and Pete actually didn't talk to each other until about 3 weeks ago when they passed each other in a parking lot. So I'm going to go with I'm going to go with they weren't heavily involved.
So that explains why that offense didn't look as good. Just kidding.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So as much as it was pumped up that he was going to be in advisory role, he's had no influence on the team. Whether or not he's done something with Schneider, that's behind closed doors. Who knows?
Right.
But as much as that was put out in the public is like, oh, he's still going to be involved. That is 100% not what happened.
Okay. So what they put out to those of us who are not around the team, it's what it looked like is what I was getting at.
For sure.
Okay.
So now that we got that knowledge, but anyways, I think he will make a good transition into teaching. And I like what J.I. said, Pete Carroll's teaching how to implement the NIL before it was allowed. But that's pretty funny. That's what I was laughing at this whole time, was that comment right there, because I was like, wow, that's a good one. But at the same time, you know what? If he's able to teach these youth coming out with that NIL money how to be better with their money that they have coming out of college, maybe they'll be able to withstand the rigors of the NFL, have some money at the end of it, and not be broke like 99% of the football heroes that we've watched over the years.
Okay. Candy?
Kudos to him. He's had a long career. Kudos to him for going into teaching, because yes, it maybe sounds strange, but in a sense, it allows him to interact with youth and help them in whatever facet it is. He's been a coach. He's been able to teach people how to maybe how to transition from high school into college into pros, or having a job without the stress of the NFL. Because let's face it, the NFL right now, like we've all said this tonight over and over, is a win now, win now, win now. And I think there's something to be said about the teaching profession and being able to help mold the kids and having an influence on them. And I think as a head coach, you lose that somewhat depending on which team you're on. So I think, and he doesn't have the stress of of being a coach with NIL and all this money and all the hoopla that goes along with NIL, the restrictions, the constantly recruiting and all of that. I think, and I don't know, I mean, he's 73 years young. How much more does he have in the tank? How much time does he want to devote to coaching? Like an NFL coach I mean, their time is spent tremendous amounts of time. Whereas teaching, he goes, he teaches, he can come home, he does a little prep, and then he has time for himself to enjoy whatever it is he might want to enjoy.
Well, I'll say this, and by the way, Dusty, I don't drink Mountain Dew too late, so that way that thing called sleep isn't a foreign language to me. Number one. Number two, the only way that I see Carroll coming back is if he can pick his own spot that's open, the best situation, and if he's a difference maker for an organization where this guy is the difference between winning a Super Bowl and not winning a Super Bowl. Other than that, as far as Pete is concerned, he looked great for his age. Don't kid yourself. This guy takes good care of himself. Mentally, if he's taking a break, teaching isn't the worst thing in the world either. That's for sure. I once looked into it for a while back, but elected not to do it for a while. But he'll pick his next destination if he really wants to do it. Right now, I think he's having a good time, just reflecting a little bit. What else is there left to accomplish? So think about it. He's won a national championship in college, right? And he's won a Super Bowl. What's there left to do? Think about it. So, with that said, okay, enjoy the comments coming out of the chat room. Keep them coming. We'll try to get to as many as we possibly can.
That is the one thing about sports, though, is there's always more to accomplish. Because what's better than your first ring? Your next ring.
That's true. That's true.
That's
Good
Bill
point,
Belichick
Paul.
and Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
his favorite one, he always said his favorite ring is the next one.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah, but meanwhile, judging, and I don't get into this kind of stuff. I think his next ring isn't one that you're going to win with a team with his little 24-year-old girlfriend. Don't seem so bad for a man that's enjoying social media when he probably gave you the most interesting comments on the planet, Steve. I don't get into that kind of stuff. That's clickbait, but let's face the reality. I do see what's going on, even after the cataract surgery. But I'm going to go throw one more Hail Mary, then we're going to talk about the game of the week. Well, I'm not going to do it. Jaden Daniels did against for the Washington Commanders and beat the Bears. So, all right, Coach Bono, what are your thoughts about Jaden Daniels? Heave to the end zone.
He continues to impress me, everything he does. I mean, he's the outlier, or I guess, he's the reason people are going to keep using draft picks on, first round picks on rookie quarterbacks and putting them out there,
Right.
I mean, he's done a phenomenal job. I didn't get to see any football this Sunday. I listened to a couple of games because we were driving from Michigan back to Florida. But, I did see a highlight of the play, and, it was pointed out like what one of the Bears DBs was kind of, taunting the crowd or whatever right before the play. So it's like, man, you just got to finish the game, play it out. But it's one for the ages, and again, it's just another check mark for a young, exciting player who's got a really, really high ceiling.
Yeah, a young, exciting player that's coached by Dan Quinn, the former defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys, who they don't have a doomsday defense. Their defense is simply doomed, period. Okay. So with that said, Bo, the Hail Mary, where in the hell are you going with this topic?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously it's a great throw. Hail Marys are luck, right? Like it's heave it as far as you can and hope one of your guys ends up with it. But what the Bears did on that play was wild. You have your guy back there facing the wrong direction when the play is snapped. He's engaged with fans, not paying attention. And then if there couldn't be a better case of instant karma, he's the one that runs in and then does exactly what you're not supposed to do on a Hail Mary is bat the ball up. Right? Like he reaches up, flat palm. So the ball only had one shot. You're supposed to try and hook that ball to shove it to the ground. Right. And, ultimately it bounces right into a Washington receiver. He did so much wrong on that one play. It was amazing. But then at the same time, you saw him doing that, and then you watch him be the guy that it happens to, and you're like, couldn't happen to a better guy. And walking in that locker room was rough. But not as rough as the meetings were today when they go through that film.
Oh, man. Oh, Steve, you've seen a lot your day coming to Patriots, so you know what we're talking about. Let's give me your 2 cents.
Well, rule number one when you're playing defense on a Hail Mary is you never let anyone behind you. Right. I mean, I learned that one in high school. So, don't let anyone behind you, because if the ball just does pop up in the air, then it's an easy score. And I just thought that was coached up really poorly by the Bears. Either that or it was very poorly executed. And, we've already mentioned, Bo mentioned it. This guy's high-fiving and, yelling at the fan base, and he's not paying attention to what's going on, and he ends up being the GOAT, not the greatest, the other direction. I just thought it was, and it, we're talking about the Bears guy, but Jaden Daniels, I mean, he extended that play for, it seemed like 10 to 12 seconds of running around, and then it was a great throw. I mean, you just heave it up there, and you just give your guys a chance to come down with it, which they did. And, Daniels is an exciting player. I watched that play unfold, and the longer he was taking to run around out there, I was thinking something crazy is going to happen. And it surely did.
Hey, Jeremy, I'm not sure where you're going to go with this.
So let me get this straight. I watched that highlight too. Tyreek Stevenson is the defensive back's name.
Yeah.
So as the ball is hiked, his fans of his team in that end zone, because he was in the away end near the away end zone, 1 yard out. They're going, hey, they hiked the ball, while he's going, we're winning. Way. I mean, they talk about a way to look like you rode the short bus. Then you look over with the knee-jerk reaction as the ball is thrown. You run over there, and you've got a guy that's set under the ball like this. You jump in front of him and tip the ball up. I swear, Tyreek Stevenson is a second-year player, and I don't think Terrion Arnold would be that mentally challenged to do something that stupid.
Like I said, I didn't know where you were going with this, but all right. All right, Candy.
We didn't watch much of that game, but we did catch that ending. And for Daniels to heave it like he did, he was at the 35-yard line, I believe, when he threw that thing. I didn't think he had it in him because he didn't seem like he had the strength or anything like that before. Like he had been a little bit injured or something. And he heaved that ball, and I'm like, no way. There's no way that they're gonna catch that. But then when the defender and I was yelling, and I'm like, are you kidding me? I've never played football in my life. I've watched it for years and years, and I'm like, the announcers even said, as a Hail Mary, you always have somebody in front of you and always have somebody behind you, because if somebody punches that ball up like they did, somebody can react and get it. Well, if that's the way you're coached, then why aren't you coached to defend the player that is? So I'm just like, I can't believe what I'm seeing. I've seen Hail Marys before.
Yeah, I was
But
waiting for that one. I don't think.
Well, I know I'm not going to go there, but I was.
Not.
It couldn't have happened to a better team, though. I'll let you know.
Yeah, the Chicago Bears. Well, let me just say this, okay? What about the play before when they allowed him to get 12 yards to set him up for that final pass? That's where I'm going with this. You had the 12 yards. You still had a couple seconds left, and once that thing started, so you had another 12 seconds. So you had 60 minutes and 12 seconds of playing time when you saw this guy running all over the place. But yeah, let's face the reality. You had a 12-yard game. You go out of bounds, and then you throw it down there, and the rest is history. And so are the Chicago Bears, 4-3, and then the Commanders are now a respectable 6-2 with a legitimate chance to win that division. I mean, they're looking good under Dan Quinn. They really, really are. And this Jaden Daniels, this kid's an exciting player. And I don't. And where was he taken? Was he taking it with the what overall pick? Second overall pick. So you don't have to be the number one overall pick to go ahead and do well. They ended up getting the better of the two quarterbacks at least. And it's the first time they've faced each other. This is going to be a good matchup over the years. And now I am going to go back to that Hail Mary that happened in Detroit. Because here's the thing that you guys probably don't know. You will know. It happened on her birthday, and the Lions got penalized with an untimed down. And I told George Eichhorn when we were downstairs when they hold a press conference, I don't know why, George, I have a real bad feeling about this play. And what do you think Rodgers does? He throws it deep. You know, that's one of my favorite expressions here. Deep. My echoes of the deep, folks. That's what it is. I have echoes of the deep. And you know, when you have a penalty on an uptime down, you know, as painful as to watch the Lions lose, I was happy for Candy. It was on her birthday the first year that she had a birthday with her mom passing away. So just if I have to bite my tongue, I'm going to bite it there. But Aaron Rodgers threw that thing. And you know what? I was happy for her there. But, you know, that's that.
So the one thing on that, them giving up that 12 yards, this lets you know where the coaching there also isn't good. I mean, there's a lot that went wrong on that play. But in their press conference afterwards, they're like, oh, that 12 yards doesn't matter. Well, it certainly does, because having to throw a 60-yard bomb versus a 75-yard bomb is very different.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no question about it. Yeah, no question about it. Thanks for making my point even better. Thank you, Bo. I appreciate it. Now, you guys got to freelance this one, so we're going to start with the game you're looking for. All right, Steve, I don't care, pro, college. What game are you looking forward to seeing this weekend?
That's a good question. I haven't paid much attention to what's going on around the rest of the NFL as much yet this week, because I'm looking at Tennessee and hoping the Patriots can win 2 in a row. Imagine that. How far we've fallen. Can they win 2 in a row?
Well, it's all right. Hey, listen, you right for the Patriots. That's a good call. All right, what
you,
about you, Bo?
Boy, that's, you know.
So there's 2 games that I'm looking for. One, I want to see how Seattle responds to the absolute beatdown they got from Buffalo, going against the Rams in a division that is basically all tied up, right? Like the Rams are only a half a game back because, well, they played one less game. So very interested to see how that one plays out. But obviously the Lions in Green Bay is probably the game of the week. That is going to be a battle. I expect the Lions to win that, but that one I'm looking forward to tuning into for sure.
Yeah, it'll definitely be popular in this household. I can assure you that. All right, Coach.
Lions, Green Bay.
Okay. What about you,
That's
Jeremy?
Well, it's Lions and Green Bay. And I am interested in Steve's game to see if the Patriots do win their second game in a row. Because if that happens, because the Titans do have a very good defense, they're still the number one yardage defense in the NFL. They're very stingy. And look at what happened. We only had 200 yards of total offense, but still had 6 offensive touchdowns. They're just not very good in the red zone. They can't stop a team once they get there. So, so if they're able to get there, if Drake May is able to go this week, um, that's going to be an interesting game. Because the reason why I'm interested in it is because of the Honolulu Blue Flu or the hangover effect after a team plays the Lions.
Yeah.
Look at Dallas. Everybody said, "Oh, look, they avoided it because they had the bye week." Nope, they still lost to San Francisco.
Okay, that's fair enough. All right, Candy.
Well, let's face it. I mean, Lions Packers in our house is going to be big. I mean, this rivalry goes back to not only on my birthday, but it also goes back to our wedding day. We got married on a Sunday. The Packers played the Lions on our wedding day, so it'll be intrigue. But there's also a couple other games. We're going to be at the USF versus FAU game this Friday night. That's going to be your alma mater against a team that we cover on a more regular basis. We're also going to be at the Hurricanes versus Duke game on Saturday. That the Hurricanes are undefeated and they're still trying, that's going to be a tough game for them. But yes, obviously Detroit and Green Bay is the big game for the game of the week, I think, for just about everybody.
Yeah, well, I'll remember fondly on that day when the justice of the peace asked, "What happens if the Packers beat the Lions?" Just tell me something that I haven't seen before, is what I said. So it doesn't really matter. But the real game, I can pin it down to one. It is Miami against Duke. Duke goes into the game as 21-point underdogs. Their The predecessor was Manny Diaz, who's with that Duke team, which is 6-2. Miami is 8-0 under Mario Cristobal. And I'm going to tell you something. This will not be a 21-point differential. It will not be. This game, I think, gets decided inside of 7 points. It's going to be a very physical game, albeit Duke isn't ranked, but the emotions in this game are going to be extremely high. I think Miami wins by inside of 7 points, and this will go a long way towards Miami, inching closer to the college football playoff. Cam Ward equals number one pick, Shedeur Center number two. Jay, I think you're pretty on target with that one. So I'm looking forward to see Mario Cristobal against Manny Diaz. I think as much on the coaching sideline. But let's face it, the Canes got some pretty good players. But none of these games outside of the Florida State beating, and they should have beaten them by a lot more than that. Miami came out a little slow in the first half, but I know they wanted to run that score up against Florida State because Mario Cristobal made no bones about it that the two games prior to that, Miami was outscored by Florida State 72-29. And when you go out there and run a trick play with 5 minutes left to go, Candy, in the game, to try to get more points, they were looking to stick it to FSU. So don't feel too bad, Coach Bono. Okay, Miami hates Florida State, and I promised you I would wear the U shirt today, and next week I'll wear something else. But I had to get it off my chest. Great show by you guys, and it's so great that we had 6 people cover all these topics inside of a legitimate time frame. It really is. So everybody brings an element to the show. So Candy, why don't you take us home as my voice is starting to fade a little bit?
So, Scott, Jay has a question for you, though, I think.
Yeah.
He says, Cristobal has surprised him. Is he doing a good job, or is it Cam Ward that is the reason Miami took the leap?
Well, Jay, let me answer it this way. Cristobal recruited Cam Ward. So I'll let you come to draw your own conclusions on how you want to answer that question. He took Cam Ward out of the transfer portal and convinced him to come to Miami. How has that worked out? So there you go. Said he loves the answer? Fair enough. All right, Candy, take us home.
So, the South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. talks about Scott's 40 plus years in the media and how it has changed over the 40 years, old school versus new school. George Eichhorn wrote the foreword. There's even a picture of young Scott Morganroth with Muhammad Ali. And there's a couple other pictures in there. You'll have to get the book to find out what other pictures are in the book. It is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Apple, and Google Books. There is a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there is also a link to our merchandise store where you can get some cool South Florida Tribune hats, sweatshirts. You know, it's fall. It's starting to get cooler out. You need a cool sweatshirt. Go out and get a South Florida Tribune sweatshirt. You can also, if you like to listen to podcasts, you can hear us wherever you get your podcasts. Monday nights, we talk baseball. Tuesday nights is football. Wednesday and Thursday nights, you just never know what we're talking about. Except Thursday nights, we do talk hockey. And then on Wednesday nights on nofilter.net, Scott has the Motor City Mad Mal show as well. Now, I'm going to tell everybody right now, next week, Tuesday, because of the election, we are going to be moving Inside the Pigskin from Tuesday to Monday night. So catch us Monday night instead. And please go out and do your civic duty and vote. I'm not going to tell you who or what to vote for, but please use your civic duty and vote. And if you don't vote, then don't complain about however the election turns out. Because if you don't exercise your right, you cannot complain. On top of all of that, if you'd like to advertise with South Florida Tribune on our YouTube channel or on our website, call Scott, 954-304-4941. At Tribune South is Twitter or X. And you can always email us any show ideas, or if you want to be a guest, southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Back to you, Scott.
All right, just to let everybody know, too, that the Inside the Pigskin will be in the earlier time slot as a lead-in to baseball. So we've been having a lot of great results here. So be able to have baseball and football the same night will be a treat. And there was no way I was going to win against the election. So I might as well just say, you know what, let's just go out there and all check it out. So nobody can tell me no for Tuesday because I did it for them. All right, with that said, let me go ahead around the horn, let everybody know how they get a hold of it. Candy did our deal. Jeremy, you're next. Go ahead.
Well, you can find my writings on the southfloridatribune.com under the Motor City Tribune heading. You can find my show on Kneecap Biting with the Motor City Lions, where I'm live every day, and I even share the shows I'm a guest on, like this one. And speaking of which, you can find me on the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel, where I go live anytime Scott needs me here on Inside the Pigskin. I'm on nofilter.net with them with the Motor City Mad Mouth show, which also airs on YouTube. And you can find me every Thursday on Fire Up with Candy and Ralph.
And you join me, obviously, on the Wednesday show for No Filter. Does a good job there. All right, Coach Bono, go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, you can find me here on Tuesdays. I'm with Bo on Wednesdays at 4 o'clock Eastern time on Coach's Corner. And as far as social media, look me up on LinkedIn.
Great place. I love LinkedIn. I find a lot of good guests on there. All right, Bo, go ahead. I found him on Twitter.
Yeah. So obviously, you do spend a lot of time on Twitter. You can find me there at Football Talk with Bo. Had to remember what it was. I'm on this show on Tuesdays, and of course with Coach on Wednesdays. And then we were talking about the Hail Mary. If you look on my YouTube right there at Football Talk, I actually have a short I created that has that play from 5 different angles. So.
Hey, Jay, you're on LinkedIn. You should look us up here. You look me up on LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy to add you. Great stuff. Okay. Yeah, Jeremy.
I said no. I was saying me too.
Oh,
LinkedIn.
yeah, him too. You'll have about 2,000 connections. By the time you get done with us, it'll be 2002. At least my math is good in that sense. All right, I'll go to my other Twitter buddy, Steve Ballesteri. Like Bo, like Steve, I found them both on Twitter, and I feel I committed highway robbery adding these two guys because they're great. They turned out to be great friends. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I every Wednesday I do a podcast with my partner for the past 13 years, Derek Havens, called Patriots 4th and 2. We've been doing this for a long time, and we've ridden the highs, and we're right now navigating the lows. So it's still fun. we really enjoy it because we both love the NFL and football. And come check us out. And Scott, we're overdue to have you on.
Well, I'm looking forward to coming on, Steve. No problem. And by the way, Steve Ballesteri, folks, comes on twice a month. He rotates with Travis Holmes. So when Travis isn't on, Steve is on. So you talk about two people that I think are unbelievable. I enjoy having them both on simultaneously. They don't overdo it. They stretch it out a lot. So I'm looking forward to coming on with you, Steve. And you know what? I enjoy every one of you people. You guys to me are family. You really are. I can't thank you guys enough for being there throughout the years. And this is what this business is about. My books emphasizes, and that's building relationships. And I can tell you, between Travis, who isn't here tonight, along with everybody on this panel, as well as on the other shows, relationships and family is really what it's all about. So meanwhile, we will be back on Monday in the early time slot, and then we'll return to our normal time slot on Tuesday. Well, it won't affect you at all, Steve. You'll be on 2 weeks from tonight. Travis Holmes gets early duty on Monday, but we want to thank everybody for joining us on this edition of Inside the Pigskin. So on behalf of Smoking Jeremy B, Candy, Steve Ballesteri, Bo Crouch, and Coach Bono, this is Scott Morgan, Roth, the Motor City Madman. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon. Take care, everybody, and have a great week. Bye now.